Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Positive Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Parmis Najmi, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to listen to more episodes like this one on self-improvement, mindset, and wellness, go ahead and hit that follow button to join the family. Before I get into today's episode, I just want to ask you guys for a quick and kind favor, and that is if you haven't yet left a review, I would absolutely appreciate if you could do so. It helps so much to build this podcast and help it grow so that we can increase the positive impact we make and just overall make it a bigger community. Also, if you are looking for daily motivation, follow me on Instagram at Positive Proof Podcast, where I post daily quotes that serve as sweet daily reminders. And if anyone is wondering how to leave episode requests, you can actually send me your thoughts via the DM me your thoughts link in the description or via Instagram DM as well. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things skin. If you've ever struggled with aging skin, acne, scarring, redness, or skin that just feels like it's working against you no matter what you try, listen, I see you. I have been there. I am 26 years old now, but I've dealt with acne since the 6th grade on my face, chest, back, shoulders, all of it. I hit puberty early and spent over a decade trying to figure out what was wrong with my skin, and it wasn't just about breakouts, it was the redness, the scarring, the constant inflammation, and the way it slowly chipped away at my confidence. And listen, I tried everything from drugstore cleansers to trendy skincare, medical grade routines, intense treatments. Some things helped and a lot of it didn't. But over the past few years, through a lot of trial and error, and I mean a lot, I've actually managed to completely change the state of my skin, and not through some magic serum or miracle fix, but through a combination of smarter skincare, healing my relationship with food, understanding my hormones, and getting serious about the basics. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through my full skin journey. What worked, what didn't, the treatments I swear by, and the habits that I never skip. We're going to be talking about skincare routines, medical procedures, hormone healing, body inflammation, and all the little things that make a big difference. And I'm not claiming to have all the answers, but I do have real experience, and I know how isolating this can feel when you're still in it. Now, quick poll check-in before we dive in for those of you tuning in on Spotify. I'm curious which one of the options below feel most familiar. So A, you've tried everything but still break out randomly. B, your skin is clear-ish but your texture, redness, or scarring still bothers you. C, you're overwhelmed by products and don't even know what's working anymore. Or D, you're just here because you love a good skincare deep dive. So scroll down and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, now let's get into it. So I started learning about skincare in 2020, like a lot of people during COVID, when we were all kind of stuck at home and chronically online. I had already been dealing with acne for years at that point, but it wasn't until then that I started approaching it from a place of curiosity instead of just panic. I didn't start with anything special. I was just watching YouTube videos, reading skincare Reddit threads and trying whatever products were trending on Instagram and TikTok. You know those ones. Basic cleansers, exfoliants that promised glass skin overnight, serums that looked cute on a shelf. And at first it felt really fun. I really did like the ritual of it, even if my skin wasn't changing much. But looking back now, that phase was really just the beginning of me taking ownership of my skin and how I cared for it. Because then I graduated to Sephora skincare, and that felt like the next logical step. Like if I just spent more money, surely I'd get better results, right? I was layering acids, switching moisturizers every couple of weeks, and constantly chasing that, quote, one product that would fix everything. But spoiler, it never really did. And even though some of those products were decent, I didn't really understand my skin. I was just treating it like a problem to fix. And if I'm being honest, I was still in this weird in-between place, like still at war with my face and still zooming in on every pore in front of my camera, still feeling like my acne said something about me and about my value. Now, eventually I pivoted into medical grade skincare, which felt like a more grown-up move. And in a way it was. I was learning how ingredients actually worked, and I was getting serious about things like tretinoin and active treatments. And for a while, it helped a lot, actually. My skin started clearing in ways that it really hadn't before. And I remember waking up one morning and realizing I didn't feel embarrassed anymore going makeup-free to the grocery store to my workout class. And that was such a small thing on the outside, but internally it was massive because When you've dealt with acne for over a decade, those tiny shifts in self-image feel like an entire identity upgrade. But even with all that progress, something still felt off. Medical grade skincare, at least for me, started to feel like another version of force. My skin always felt dry. It was always irritated, like it was just surviving. And I had to ask myself, is clear skin worth it if my face constantly feels stripped and raw? And that was the turning point. Around that time, I had been seeing more and more about the Korean skincare, and at first, I'll be honest, I kind of dismissed it. I assumed it was just all cute packaging and 10-step routines that I really didn't have time for. But when I finally took the time to understand the philosophy behind it, something clicked. Korean skincare isn't just about what you put on your face, it's about how you treat your skin. It's about strengthening the skin barrier instead of attacking it, hydrating deeply, layering gently, creating long-term resilience instead of temporary results. And for someone like me who had spent years waging war on her skin, that shift in energy changed everything. I went from constantly trying to strip, dry out, and suppress my acne to actually nurturing my skin back to health. And not just health, but strength. And the change did not happen overnight, but it did over the course of a couple of months, and it was major. My skin started feeling more supple, less reactive. I wasn't breaking out from every new product anymore. The redness calmed down. The scars looked softer. My skin looked more plump and glowy. It was like my skin could finally breathe, and the best part was I was no longer in this constant cycle of overdoing and repairing because I had found my rhythm. And I stopped chasing perfection and started building trust. Because my new motive now was not to heal and clear my acne, but it was to build and strengthen my skin barrier. And that in return does clear and heal your acne. Now let's talk about Morpheus 8 because it really did help clear my skin. But I do want to walk you through the full story, including what it is, how it works, and what actually made it effective for me. Emphasis on me because I know a lot of people have a lot to say about Morpheus 8. Now, I got my Morpheus 8 treatment in 2021, and at that point, I was exhausted by my skin. Like quite literally exhausted. After years of breakouts, scars, large pores, and inflammation, I was willing to try anything that felt promising. But this time, I wanted something more targeted, more clinical, not just another serum or mask that promised me the world and delivered nothing. And for anyone who's unfamiliar, Morpheus 8 is a microneedling device that also uses radio frequency energy. So basically, it uses ultrafine needles to create controlled micro injuries in the skin and then delivers heat deep into the dermis to stimulate collagen and elastin production. So in simple terms, it intentionally damages the skin in a very precise, controlled way to trigger its natural healing process. And the result is tighter, smoother, more resilient skin over time. It kind of works from the inside out, not just on the surface. And I remember walking out of my first session red and a little swollen, but very hopeful. And within weeks, I could see a real difference. My acne calmed down dramatically, and the post-inflammatory redness faded, and my pores didn't look as stretched, and my skin felt stronger. Like it wasn't constantly on edge and reacting to every single thing. So for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to wear concealer just to feel presentable. And I know that might feel small, but if you've lived with acne for over a decade, you know what a mental shift that is. It really is such a big deal. That said, Morpheus 8 isn't for everyone, and it's definitely not a magic solution. I've known people who experienced facial fat loss from it, especially if the settings were too aggressive or if the provider wasn't experienced. And that's the risk with anything that uses heat and deep tissue remodeling. Since then, though, I have leaned more into microneedling without the radio frequency. It is gentler and more predictable, and it's still incredibly effective when done consistently. Very similar principle, create micro injuries, stimulate collagen, support skin renewal. But the difference is that microneedling doesn't carry the same risk of volume loss or over tightening, and the downtime is much more minimal. And another point that I feel really strongly about is most non-invasive facials are a complete waste of money. I say that with love, but also with full honesty. The hydrofacials, the oxygen facials, the glow masks, They might give you a bit of a short-term radiance, but they do nothing for long-term skin structure. They don't change your collagen, they don't fix scarring, they don't reverse damage. So if you're saving up for a facial every month that costs $200 and leaves you with no lasting results, skip it. Instead, I'd much rather do one high-quality collagen-stimulating treatment every few months, whether it's microneedling, Morpheus 8, laser, or something else in that category, and then use the rest of that money to invest in good skincare products and a healthy lifestyle in between. Those are the treatments that actually move the needle, literally and figuratively. You don't need a glow-up facial that lasts 24 hours. You need a long-term strategy that supports your skin barrier, rebuilds its strength, and simulates regeneration from within. Now, I have also started using red light therapy and a microcurrent device at home, more as supportive tools between my bigger treatments. And red light therapy is my favorite. I've been using it for 2 years now, and I use the Current Body one, which, by the way, I also have a discount code for. It's 20% off, and I'll leave it in the description for you to use. But it basically works by penetrating the skin with low-level wavelengths of light, which helps stimulate your cells to produce more energy. That energy supports things like collagen production and reduced inflammation and faster healing. And I use my red light mask maybe a few times a week. I'd say about 4 to 5 times actually, usually in the mornings after I wash my face and before I put on any skincare. And I've noticed such a big change in my skin. My overall tone has improved, my texture has improved. It's been great for calming down irritation and redness, especially if I've had a breakout or just did a treatment like microneedling. It's absolutely amazing. Now, the microcurrent device, or Medicube Booster Pro, which is the one I use, is something I added in much later. It delivers a very low-level electrical current to your facial muscles to help lift and tone them, kind of like a workout for your face. And I use it around my cheekbones and jawline, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. And what I like about it is that it gives you a subtle sculpted look without being invasive, and it depuffs your face in the morning. Plus, it's super easy to incorporate once you get used to the steps. You kind of just glide the device over your skin in slow motions, and it takes maybe 10 minutes. And it's not going to change your face overnight, but over time I did notice a difference in definition and tightness, especially in areas where I had lost volume from past acne or inflammation. So I absolutely love this as well. Now, moving on to the rest of my journey, at some point I had to face a very hard truth. My acne wasn't just a skincare problem. My skin was inflamed because my body was inflamed. And my body was inflamed because it was stressed, it was malnourished, and honestly, deeply, deeply confused. And I don't think we talk enough about how much internal chaos shows up externally, because for me, no product, no facial, and no treatment ever fully worked until I addressed what was happening inside. I've never really opened up about this in detail before, but I spent a big chunk of my early 20s deeply disconnected from my body, and it showed up in how I ate. And I never thought of it as an eating disorder at the time. It just kind of felt like I was being disciplined or watching what I eat. But when I look back, it was restriction masked as wellness. And I was chasing every low-fat, low-sugar, clean girl trend, living on artificial sweeteners, skipping meals, surviving off protein bars and caffeine, and I thought I was being good, okay? I really did. But I was bloated, I was puffy, I was moody, and my skin was screaming for help. But what I didn't realize then was that my body was stuck in a constant state of stress. I wasn't giving it real nourishment. I wasn't eating enough fats to support my hormones. I wasn't getting enough micronutrients to support repair. I was inflamed from the inside out, and acne, that was just the red flag waving on the surface. And the craziest part is that I thought I was being healthy. I really did. I followed all the fitness influencers who swore by sugar-free syrups and low-calorie desserts, and I avoided carbs at night, and I told myself fat made me break out. But in reality, the more I restricted, the more my body rebelled. And the more it rebelled, the more I hated my skin for showing me the truth that I wasn't ready to face. Again, the shift didn't happen overnight, but when I started healing my relationship with food, and when I finally let go of all the fake health rules that I had internalized, I could feel my body exhale. I started eating real meals again with enough protein, with actual healthy fats, with minerals, with carbs, and slowly but surely, my skin actually changed. The puffiness in my face went down, the redness became less angry, my hormonal breakouts started to calm, and my skin actually produced less oil, which was wild because for so long I had been told that my acne was caused by overproduction of sebum. But turns out a lot of that sebum was being triggered by internal stress. And my body was in survival mode. My skin was reflecting that. And honestly, one of the most underrated parts of this whole healing journey was learning how to regulate my nervous system. Because when you're constantly anxious about food or counting every gram of sugar or criticizing your reflection every morning, it creates a stress loop that your body doesn't know how to shut off. And that stress loop triggers inflammation. It disrupts your digestion, it messes with your hormones, it throws off your sleep, and yes, it breaks out your skin. Now, I'm not saying acne is only caused by internal imbalances. There are a million reasons skin can react. But in my case, this was the root. And my skin was trying to get my attention, and I had been silencing it with topicals and treatments instead of actually listening to it.
Let's take a quick break.
Hi, I'm Robin Lane, psychologist. And though I started out as a child actress, as I got older, I became far more interested in what make the characters tick, the emotions behind the roles. And that's when I realized that my real calling was understanding human behavior. And that's how I became a psychologist. And my specialization is in intimacy, romantic relationships.
One of the biggest game changers for me this past year was getting really intentional with my supplement routine. I got my blood work done, figured out where I was deficient, and I started repleting those gaps. I don't take anything crazy, kind of just targeted support that aligns with what my body needs right now. So for me, that's vitamin D, omega-3s, my AG1 greens, my iron. I might actually do a full episode on this soon because I get so many questions about what I take and what it helps with. But the bigger point is that once I supported my body from within, everything else became easier. Okay, now moving on. At a certain point, I realized my skin didn't just need powerful treatments or the right serums, it needed consistency with cleanliness. Discipline is the kindest form of that word. And no, I'm not talking about being obsessive or living in fear of germs. I'm talking about the kind of habits that feel like protection. One of the very first things I changed, and I swear by this, was using paper towels instead of regular towels to dry my face. I know it might sound excessive at first, but hear me out. Regular towels, even clean ones, they build up bacteria so fast, especially if they're hanging in a damp bathroom and being reused throughout the week. And if your skin is already compromised, acne prone, inflamed, or healing from active breakouts, that bacteria can make things so much worse. And I noticed such a difference when I made that one small switch. No more rubbing my face with a cloth that had who knows what on it. Just a fresh, clean paper towel every single time. It became a non-negotiable. Another big shift was double cleansing. Every single night, no matter what. I don't care if I wore makeup that day or not, I still double cleanse because your skin collects so much more than just makeup throughout the day. There's SPF, there's sweat, there's pollution, dust, and residue from your hair products. All of it ends up on your face. And if you're only cleansing once, you're probably just moving it all around, and that's disgusting. Now, I use an oil-based cleanser to break everything down gently, and then I follow it up with something water-based to actually cleanse. Not in a harsh way, but just effectively. It really only takes 5 minutes and has changed the entire tone of my skin. I break out way less now, and when I do, the flare-ups are shorter and calmer. And then there's my sheets and pillowcases, which I treat like skincare products because that's what they are. They're passive skincare. If you are laying your face on something every single night, it better be clean. I wash my pillowcases at least once a week, often more. Same with my bed sheets. It's not just for acne prevention, it is a standard of hygiene that helps me feel like I'm protecting the progress that I've made. Especially because I've struggled with body acne too on my upper back, chest, and shoulders. Clean sheets and clean pajamas are just part of that healing routine. And I've even forced my boyfriend to follow the same routine, so I never have to worry about sleepovers. Now, something else that I do that's made a huge difference is I never get into bed without showering. I know that might might sound intense for the people who shower in the mornings, but to me, it's about keeping my bed and by extension, my skin as clean as possible. The thing is, the sweat, bacteria, and pollution from being outside, it all gets on your body throughout the day. And when you lay down without washing it off, you're essentially marinating in it all night. And that can show up as body breakouts, dullness, and even irritation on your face depending on how you sleep. For me, it's not really a rule, it's kind of a ritual, but showering at night is how I reset, and I really don't rush it. I exfoliate a few times a week, I moisturize head to toe, and then I get into bed knowing that I've set my skin up to rest. And if I'm being real, there's something really feminine about the way I've built these rituals. They're just so soft and gentle and intuitive, and they help me transition out of survival mode and into a space of nourishment. And that energy shows up on my skin for sure, but it also shows up in how I carry myself and how I sleep and how I wake up. So if you're overwhelmed by your skin right now and don't know where to start here. Start with your pillowcase and start with your towels. Start with what's touching your skin the most. You don't need to buy another serum this week. You just need to build better systems around the skin you already have. It's really not about being perfect. It's about being intentional, and trust me, your skin will notice. Now, skin healing is a mirror for self-trust because the more I started building consistent habits and eating properly, sleeping enough, and actually paying attention to how my skin reacted to certain things, the more it started to calm down. The more I stuck to what worked instead of constantly switching products in panic, the more my skin leveled out. And it became clear that the real work wasn't in the treatments, it was in the follow-through. And if I'm being honest, I didn't trust myself with my skin at first. I always assumed someone else knew better. Dermatologists, influencers, even strangers on Reddit. I would second guess every product, try new routines every 2 weeks, and constantly search for the missing piece that would fix everything overnight. And looking back, I wasn't really listening to my skin. I was just trying to outsmart it, and it just kept backfiring. It took time, to be honest, and a lot of trial and error to start seeing my skin as something that was giving me feedback and not something that was betraying me. And I stopped calling every breakout a flare-up and started asking, have I been sleeping poorly, or have I skipped meals this week? Or have I been more anxious than usual? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. It's rarely random. There's almost always a reason, and I only started figuring that out once I gave myself a little bit more credit. I also think a lot of people underestimate how much their skin reflects their routines, not just skincare routines, but life routines. Like the moment I stopped overeating and started taking supplements consistently, or managed my stress better and prioritized my sleep, my skin responded in a much better way. And even now, when I do get a breakup, I don't really freak out about it anymore. I just go back to the basics. I check my sleep. I simplify my routine. I drink more water. I give my skin a few days without introducing anything new. I don't spiral the way I used to because I actually trust that my skin knows how to recover and that I know how to support it. And that's not something I would have said a few years ago because I used to feel so disconnected from my body, but now I just feel more in sync. Not perfectly, just better. So if you're in the thick of it right now and trying to heal your skin and feel like nothing's working, I've been there and it's exhausting, I know. It's easy to blame yourself or your skin or fall into the trap of constantly switching things up, hoping something finally works. But what helped me the most wasn't a secret product or some overnight miracle. It was just doing the small, unglamorous things consistently and sticking to the habits that made my skin feel stable, and even learning how to pay attention to my own patterns instead of jumping from one online routine to the next. Clear skin didn't make me a new person, but it did teach me how to take care of myself in a way that I hadn't before. And that part, that's what actually stuck. And that's the part that keeps my skin calm now, even more than the products do. So that's my full skin story, from breakouts and inflammation to calm, clear, resilient skin. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode, it's that skin healing doesn't happen in a straight line. And it's not just about finding the right cleanser or booking the right facial. It's about understanding your body and building real habits and sticking with what works, even when you're not seeing instant results. For me, it started with curiosity during a lockdown and turned into trial and error with products and treatments, and eventually led to a more grounded, holistic approach. Strong skincare routines, fewer actives, smarter procedures, eating real food, sleeping well, and paying attention to what my skin was trying to tell me instead of fighting it all the time. And yes, the transformation has been physical, but it has also been mental, because when your skin calms down, your whole nervous system does too. You stop obsessing, you stop second guessing, you move through the world with a little bit more ease, as woo-woo as that sounds. So again, if you're in the thick of it right now, I promise it's not always going to be like this. You don't need to try everything and you don't need to fix yourself overnight. Just focus on getting clear about your skin, not what's trending. Build your foundation first, and if you ever feel like you're not making progress, just zoom out. The long game always looks different than the highlight reel. And if you want to see my exact routine, I actually filmed it over on Instagram and TikTok, so you can check it out on my page at @parmisnajmi. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. I love sharing what's worked for me in case it helps someone else feel less overwhelmed, less alone, and more in control of their own journey. To everyone who made it this far, I appreciate you so, so much, and I can't wait to chat with you again in next week's episode. Lots of love, Parmis.